What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is Thursday, November 4th. I am still basking in the glow of a Braves World Series victory, but we have NFL football to get to, and we have a scorcher on Thursday night as the Colts and the Jets play. Mike White, Carson Wentz. Oh my goodness, how exciting. You can watch us recap it live on YouTube. We do recaps live on YouTube Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays after the last football game, the primetime game. Also, 1 p.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have mock draft show on. We have a mock draft show on Tuesday and our picks show on Thursday. All those shows are live. YouTube.com/pick6. Subscribe and turn on the alerts, or just go to your app on your phone. Search for Pick Six. You can subscribe. Leave us your bet. This show is also on YouTube, by the way. And we'll do the picks. And then we'll do the props, and then we'll do DFS on YouTube only. Joining me to do all of that and to break it down, Tyler Sullivan. Sully, what's up, buddy?
Well, what's going on? Congrats on your title. Happy for you, man.
Thank you. Yeah, pretty awesome.
It was fun. Welcome to the title town. It's fun.
Like surreal. It's like, are we really a title? Like, the Braves were under 500 at the All-Star break.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a really cool story.
Yeah, and it had to go through the Dodgers and then the Astros, and it was like everybody's kind of rooting for the Braves in a weird way. Yeah, because
I definitely was after the Astros knocked out my Red Sox. I was very much rooting for you.
And the Astros are noted cheaters. I'm looking around. I had some. Oh boy, they got lost in the celebration. I had some pearls I was wearing last night for Jock Peterson. My lucky pearls. The Braves and the NC State 3-0 when I'm wearing pearls.
All right, I like it.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll look like real cool wearing this to the game again.
You gotta wear that tonight, or you gotta wear that on Thursday Night Football to give us a good juju for these bets.
I know. Yeah, we gotta win some bets. I actually got a DM from somebody who said our props are on fire, so good for us.
Love it. Yeah, we did well on Monday night. The only one I think we only really missed on Kelsey. I was big on Kelsey, but Hardman hit, the total hit, the under, the Giants
way under.
We were pretty way under. I mean,
way under, and the Giants. Well. Yeah. The DFS wise, it was impossible. The key was to have 4 Giants and like Tyreek Hill as your captain. I think you could have had Mahomes in there too. And it didn't matter. Although he might
have had to have Gore. You know,
it'd have Gore and John Ross.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll get to DFS in a minute. Let's break down this game. I've actually got a Jets Bengals on the TV as we're breaking this down. It's fascinating to see. The Colts are going to be without T.Y. Hilton for this matchup. I'm trying to see. Obviously, the Jets will be starting Mike White. There will be no Zach Wilson in this game. As we record this on Wednesday afternoon, we still don't have Wednesday. The Jets, you're Eastern time, guys. How do you not have a practice report out by Wednesday at 3:45? What are we doing here? Classic Jets. Tevin Coleman did not practice Monday or Tuesday. Neither did Corey Davis or George Fant. Zach Wilson is not technically out yet, but I mean he ain't playing. Let's be real here. And then Bryce Huff.
I think Robert Saleh already announced that Mike White was gonna start. Like no surprise, but it was like he's starting.
Yeah, exactly. So we're getting Mike White as in fact he may have announced it after the game.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think happened.
Yeah, which is okay, sure, whatever. Actually, T.Y. Hilton. I'm sorry, T.Y. Hilton is questionable. That is from how is this? What is happening here, Colts? What are you doing? This is last week's injury report. You know what? I didn't do a good job looking at the injuries. Do you know about T.Y. Hilton? Anybody know about T.Y. Hilton? What am I doing?
I think it's an outside chance that he, it's more likely that he doesn't play than he plays.
Oh no, he has been ruled out for Thursday game. Cool. Thursday game. Mike Wells of ESPN reports. Also that's the only. Quentin Nelson is questionable too. That would be a big one if Quentin Nelson somehow did not play in this particular game, because I don't know if you heard this. Quentin Nelson. Very good at professional football and a big factor in the run game and in protecting Carson Wentz. So that is one to watch. T.Y. Hilton is out, and we'll get to that in a second. I'm going to plead Braves for my ignorance on the injury report.
That's good. All right, it's fine.
That's what my excuse is going to be. What do you think about this game, though? It's Colts minus 10.5. It's kind of a shocking number, given that the Jets just won a game against the Bengals.
I think this is the
over
theme.
46.5. Sorry.
This is the theme where I looked at a lot of these numbers and I just feel like all of them are a little too high. They're just a little. I mean, I don't want to take the Jets in this. I feel like I should just go with the Colts because it just feels like the Jets caught Cincinnati kind of, a little too big for their britches. It was like the first time I think all season they were a double-digit favorite going into a game.
It's their first time as a road favorite. Cincinnati's first time as a road favorite of double digits since 1983.
Okay. So there you go. It's just, I think that they kind of thought a little bit too big of themselves. Trap game and Mike White happened, throws for 400 and whatever yards. And now I just wonder, okay, can lightning strike twice? Can he really, on a short week, take this New York Jets team, which from top to bottom is inferior to this Indianapolis Colts, go on the road and take them down? I just have a hard time seeing it. But at the same time, I'm like, do I really want to lay 10.5 points with Carson Wentz? I really don't want to. But I think at the end of the day, push comes to shove, I have to. I just feel like it's a letdown game for the Jets and the Colts. You got to just lay the points here, even though it's a massive number.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like 10.5 is sort of purposely stinky. I think, it's weird because we've seen all these teams, the Rams cover 15.5 or, the Texans nearly came back and covered the 16.5, but the Rams covered the opening number, right? We're seeing teams cover these big numbers, and I agree with you completely. The Colts don't, the Colts just lost to the Titans. They have looked a lot better the last few weeks, but we saw fresh in our minds, as I point out. I mean, this Jets Bengals game is it's fresh, right? I mean, I can't help but think about it. And you're like, well, I mean, surely the Jets, if they can beat the Bengals, they can hang with the Colts. You're right. The Colts are just a much better team. I don't want to take the Colts at all. I think with push comes to shove for me, double digits is just too much, and I'll take the Jets, but something about this is concerning. Is Mike White is Mike White the guy who threw for 400 yards, or is reality going to set him? I mean, he did have 2 interceptions. He threw 45 times in that game. It's ridiculous. Not 14 targets to Michael Carter. And they're basically dinking and dunking all over the middle. I mean, that's all he did was just bing, 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 bing. I mean, it did average 10 yards a carry, or 10 yards a pass, but I don't less than 10. Sorry. But I don't know, man. I think it seems obvious to take the Jets, and that concerns me.
Yeah. And so, that's kind of where, I think it's almost, it's weird because, again, we're talking about Mike White. He only has 1 start under his belt, but I feel like you have to take it, we're looking at it from a very much micro view of what we saw in week 8. I almost feel like we have to step back a little bit. And that's kind of why I'm leaning towards Indianapolis, because if I just zoom out a little bit over the totality of the last couple of weeks here, Indianapolis has really been catching fire here. And they just ended up losing a game to a team in Tennessee that has very good weapons on the offensive side of the ball. And Carson Wentz wasn't particularly clutch in that game, through a couple of interceptions, a couple of bad ones there. So it's, you could see the ways that they could correct those mistakes and go into this game on Thursday. Whereas I feel like that's a lot easier to do than asking Mike White to again go and just defeat this team that, is again, just more talented than you and throw for 400 yards. So we basically have the same rough, analysis of this game. It's just, the coin flips one way and the coin's flipping the other way for me. It's, we're pretty, like-minded. It's tough because of this number.
It's really right. Like if it was 9.5, I don't think I'd have a problem taking the Colts. And if it was, 14.5, I would have no problem taking the Jets. I guess that actually informs my decision. Maybe I should take the Colts. I need 14 to feel confident that the Jets is the answer. The other thing too is you look at that game against Tennessee. I mean, the Colts were up 14-0 less than 8 minutes into that game. They were carving up the Tennessee defense. Carson Wentz looked awesome. He's throwing the ball over the place, hitting 2 touchdown passes to Michael Pittman. And then, Tennessee came back basically without Derrick Henry, who was banged up and only carried 28 times for 68 yards. But I mean, he wasn't a huge part of that comeback. It was all Ryan Tannehill, AJ Brown. I don't know. It doesn't if the Colts come out and jump all over the Jets, I don't know that Mike White necessarily storms back. So, I mean, I'm leaning towards the Jets, but I don't really feel good about it. Total wise, it is actually down to 45.5. I think the under is probably a pretty good look here. I mean, I know that the Colts scored 31 against the Titans, but again, if you get a situation where it's 14-0 Indy, I would guess that they learned their lesson against the Titans, and they will give Jonathan Taylor 30 carries if they get a lead here against the Jets, because they have to win this game. I mean, this is a must-win game for the Colts. Also, both of the Jets' wins were at home, I believe, because the Titans were in New York.
Yeah,
and obviously,
I believe that's true.
Yeah, so this is a whole different ball game. Road game, prime time. Maybe Mike White turns into a pumpkin here. That's sort of the analysis, right?
Yeah, and you're talking about, I mean, you mentioned it, he threw, over 40 times last week. He's probably gonna have to do that again. Indianapolis is the #1 ranked defense against the run in DVOA. So it's not like, Michael Carter, who had a great week last week in the passing game and, on the ground. It's not like they really haven't been able to figure out a running game, New York has, throughout the season. And so you can't really try to balance it and help the kid out a little bit in this game where you say, okay, we're going to start running the football a little bit, ease the pressure off of Mike White. You really can't against this defense, at least what we've seen so far this season. So you're going to ask him to pass a ton in this game. And I feel like we would know by now if he was able to do this, throw 45, 40 plus times a game and throw for 400 yards. I feel like some coaching staff along the way here, he's been in the league a few years now, would have been like, hey, maybe this guy's got something. It's not we're not just finding out because the #2 overall pick and Zach Wilson got hurt and now he's ascending. I feel like one of these teams would have kind of figured that out by now. So again, I think it's more likely that he turns into a pumpkin than Indianapolis just completely falls in their face and looks like the team that we saw last week.
By the way, Mike White's jersey and game ball on display in Canton.
That's pretty good. And
I
saw this other stat here. I believe it was like a Bleacher Report, social post. So Mike White's game check last week, it was $50K, and a bettor who bet $1,000 for him as the passing yards leader won $125K.
That's amazing.
What a world!
Making more on an NFL game than the actual NFL player. The reason it's in his jerseys in the Hall of Fame, his 37 completions were the most by a quarterback in his first NFL start. Mike White joined Cam Newton as the only player since 1950 to pass for at least 400 yards in their first NFL start. He's also the Jets' first 400-yard passer since Vinny Testaverde threw for 481 on Christmas Eve 2000, which has been 327 games. So, I mean, what's more likely? That Mike White comes back to earth, or that Mike White is a legendary quarterback who's about to enter into next level lore? I would say it's probably the latter. And by the way, talking about the dinking and dunking, he did have one long touchdown pass that was traveled 20 yards in the air. He only had one other attempt beyond 15 yards. The concern for me would be that if you're back in the Jets, that Matt Eberflus, the defensive coordinator, looks at this chart. It's like, all right, we're gonna rush for DeForest Buckner, go do damage in the interior, and you just squat linebackers and drop your walk your safeties down and dare him to throw over top of you, because I don't think that he's going to be able to do it, particularly if Corey Davis is out of this game for any reason. All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk props. So, on the prop side of things, we have plenty of options here over at Caesars. They don't seem too concerned with any of the injuries in this game. Finally, Sully, we got an injury-free game for the most part. Unfortunately, it's just a 10.5-point game with the Colts and the Jets. I mean, this is truly the first stinker of the year. I got to tell you, man, Carson Wentz total passing touchdowns, 1.5. I kind of love the over at 1.5 at -130. I think they'll. Well, look, the problem is if the Colts get like a 21-0 lead and they just squat on it, you're probably not going to get there. But I don't know. I feel like 1.5. I'm more than willing to take the over there. So that's one of my first props.
I like it. No, I mean, again, Wentz, it's exactly what you just said. It depends on kind of how the game goes early on. If it's Jonathan Taylor ripping off an 80-yard touchdown and they start to kind of gain a lead here, you're kind of bleep out of luck there, just because it doesn't seem like that'll really kind of, cement itself later on in the game, because they probably won't have to do that.
If it's a Colts blowout and he doesn't, and they're up by 3 touchdowns and 2 of them aren't Carson Wentz passes, then we're probably in trouble.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the other one for me with Wentz is interceptions. Just has to throw one, plus 120. Again, you're getting plus money here. He threw 2 last week. And I just wonder, again, he's been pretty sharp since he's joined Indianapolis. He only threw 1 interception outside of that game last week. So he's been turnover free, at least, when he's dropping back to pass. But I do wonder, again, a couple of those interceptions were very Carson Wentz, Philadelphia Eagles-esque. And I do wonder, we talk a lot about Mike White turning back into a pumpkin. Let's see what happens here with Carson Wentz, too. All it takes is one little mistake. The Jets do have C.J. Mosley back. They got him back last week. Could they start to maybe apply some pressure to him and it kind of flushes him a little bit? Again, just one, I'm not putting the house on it, but if I can get that at plus money after him throwing 2 last week, I do feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, the Jets will need to get pressure on him for sure. And I also think it's one of those where it needs to be a blowout. Or it needs to not be a blowout, excuse me, because
I know what you mean.
Yeah. And look, basically, if Carson Wentz, if the Colts have a big lead, if the Colts get a lead of double digits or more, they are going to take the air out of the ball and they're going to run the living mess out of the ball. I mean, that's just how that's going to work. I feel like, and it shouldn't be surprising. They didn't do it last week, which was clearly a mistake. The Jets, in terms of rush defense, DVOA, I tend to think of them as having like a decent rush defense, but they are 23rd. They're better at stopping the run than stopping the pass, but in general, just a bad defense. And if Carson Wentz is able, if Quentin Nelson is able to go, then the Colts should be able to have their way running the football in this particular matchup. I also have Mike White under 37.5 pass attempts. I don't disagree that we could easily see him throw the ball a ton if the Jets are trailing. But in this scenario, I think you see, again, Indy take the air out of the ball, runs the football, shortens the game with a lead, and it just means Mike White is going to have some pretty lengthy drives to get the 38 pass attempts, which is frankly just a ton.
Yeah, I know what you mean on that. And again, I have the over on his completions here, almost because of what we were talking about before the break here, about the kind of dink and dunk nature of this Jets offense that needed to happen here. And if you look at, kind of some advanced statistics here, we have an advanced stats team that sends out some emails to us, and I found these ones pretty interesting. 42% of his passes last week, Mike White's, were either 0 or to 5 air yards, and he had an 81 completion percentage when throwing within that range. And the Colts, they allow the 5th highest completion percentage in the NFL between 0 and 5 air yards, around 73% completion percentage there. So it's something that Mike White does well, or at least, he did well last week. And it's something that the Indianapolis Colts have been giving up this season. So if that's something where that New York finds something, hey, we can move the football this way. Yeah, we're going up against the team that has the number 1 ranked run defense in DVOA. Here's a way we can move the ball over a course of short fields and not expose our young or inexperienced quarterback to trying to chuck it down the field. This is one way to do it. And again, you would have to have a number of pass attempts here to kind of do that. But again, I do see him maybe getting over that total here because I like the matchup.
Yeah, and yep, I tend to agree with that. This game too, the Bengals defense just didn't show up, and the Jets were able to score kind of easily, and Mike White slinged it around. So I don't hate the completions at all. I mean, I think you could get 24 of 35, and I mean, we're still there's a window to get both of those for sure. Same sort of thing, by the way, with Michael Carter receiving yards over 38.5. That's just too low.
Yeah. I was just talking about this.
14 targets last week in. He's going to occupy the space that you're discussing with those short air yards.
Yep. I was just talking about this with producer Chris before the show started. I was trying to find the Michael Carter receiving yards. I couldn't find it on Caesars. Maybe they took it down for a second. Obviously those things change when there's when there's an unknown status with a Corey Davis. They kind of move things around there. I love it. I think that's way too
35.5. I'm sorry, I did that wrong. 35.5 minus 130.
Either way, love it even more. You're talking about a guy that is going to throw in that short intermediate portion of the field, and Mike White is. Michael Carter is somebody who I think is going to be the main beneficiary of those targets. So I love that.
I agree. I've got a one for Carson Wentz as well. I think over rush yards is a pretty good look here. It's 8.5. We all know that Carson Wentz is sort of, he's been banged up, had the foot injury, had the shoulder injury. But if you look at his game logs, the first 2 games of the season, 4 carries for 23 yards and 5 carries for 37 yards. He did not run at all against Tennessee. Clearly mobility was an issue and they were concerned about his health. Ran 5 times for 8 yards against Miami, and then 2 carries each of the next 2 games. But then the last 2 for a total of 6 yards, by the way. The last 2 games, though, 4 carries for 23 yards against San Francisco and 3 carries for 11 yards against Tennessee. Neither of those are huge numbers, but I think there's a building comfort with Carson Wentz in terms of his ability to run the ball. The Jets are a bad defense. We could easily see Carson Wentz pick up just one. All you need is 1 third down scramble, 3rd and long, and you get 9 yards, and we're there. I don't think it's crazy to suggest that he could get there in the first half. And like some of these other props, there is a path to failure if Carson, if the Colts have a huge lead, because I doubt Carson Wentz will expose his body to being hit if the Colts have a large lead.
Yep, and you also just got to be careful on those as well. Obviously, when we do talk about these rushing stats for quarterbacks, he can have that. He can have that. He can have that 9-yard run in the first quarter somewhere that scrambles, but then all of a sudden you're down that final drive, and he kneels down, and you lose that by a little bit. We saw that earlier this year with Tom Brady. His prop was, I think, 3 yards.
Oh God, that was brutal.
And it was 2.5, and he rushed for 3 and kneeled down twice, and it was game over or something along those lines.
No, that was it. It was like 3.5. He rushed for 4, and I was like giggling about it because I'd given it out, I think. And then and then it's taking knees. I'm like, oh no. Somebody texted me, they're like, I had the under on that one, so good for you. Good for you. Oh, it was Akeem Dermish had the under. That's who it was. We were talking about it on the show. He's like, yeah, I think it was Akeem anyway. Worth noting, if this is a big time blowout, it would not be insane to see some Sam Ellinger here too. No. I mean, look, the Colts, the Jets are a bad football team. I mean, the Colts could blow them out. I mean, that's not a, it's a 10.5 point spread at home, right? I mean, it wouldn't be insane if the Colts, the Jets lost 54-13 to the Patriots. They lost 26-0 at Denver. They were in London against the Falcons. They lost 14-19 at the Panthers. I mean, their road performances have been abysmal. So it's not out of the question that if you taking Carson Wentz overs or any Colts overs are inherently dangerous just because of that factor.
Yep, and that's exactly why I'm a little skeptical about this Michael Pittman one, receiving yards over 68.5. That's a pretty big number, kind of like what I was saying before. I feel like a lot of these numbers are just a little bit too big for my comfort level, but I'm like, I don't want to take the under on these because I still feel like Michael Pittman could easily.
I'm not an under guy.
No, I'm not an under guy. That's not
no T.Y. Hilton. Pittman, I definitely looked at it. I was hoping it would be in the high 50s or low 60s. 68.5 is a lot, but he's gotten there in each of the last 2 games. He has gotten there, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4 times this season. And I mean, he had 15 targets and 10 catches last week. The dude is a beast.
And we're talking about a defense too, where it's 27th in the league in DVOA against the pass. It's not like he's going up against this Legion of Doom secondary.
Right. Or even Legion of Boom.
Legion of Boom, that too. I watched Dune today, and I have Dune in my head.
How was Dune? I want to watch that.
Good. I like it. I'm a big Marvel, Star Wars kind of.
Oh, is it like fan. Marvel and Star Wars?
Yeah, it's got that vibe. That's
what I'm watching tonight. Because hey, you know what? No World Series Game 7 tonight. That's right. Crack a bottle of red wine and watch some Dune.
I like it.
Yeah, I like the Pittman over too. And just looking at the receivers, we saw T. Higgins get over that number and Tyler Boyd get over that number last week for the Bengals. Jamar Chase somehow did not. Should have called 2 touchdowns though. Okay, so speaking of touchdowns, I also have Nyheim Hines over receiving yards 11.5. Again, caveat being that if it's a blowout and Hines isn't there, he's not going to be catching passes. But he's starting to be last week. He got a lot more involved in the pass game. I could see him. You don't need much for him to get over this number. Let's talk about some first touchdown scorers. I need to know, why is Ashton Doolin 18-1, and additionally, who is Ashton Doolin?
Was he on That 70 Show? Is that who that was?
That's a good one. I like that. In fact, when you type Ashton into Google, obviously Doolin is not your first name that comes up. It's Mr. Kuchar. Ashton Doolin, by the way, is an American football wide receiver and return specialist for the Indianapolis Colts of the National Football League. He played college football for Malone University. In case you're wondering what Wikipedia says. He is, I guess, going to be the number 2 for the Colts with T.Y. Hilton out. Mike Strachan And Zach Pascal. I guess Zach Pascal will be the 2, and Ashton Doolin will be the 3rd. But 18-1 is absurd. Like, that's obnoxious. That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, for somebody who we had to Google in Wikipedia that he's an American football player, 18-1 is kind of crazy.
Football League, yeah.
I don't know if I love that one again. I just like, watch. There's a method to the madness,
he's
I guess.
Definitely catching it. Like, it's like I'm probably gonna bet it because he's definitely catching it. Like, just so I don't feel like an idiot, but that's just for what it's worth.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, because it's one of those. I like Zach Pascal 10-1. I don't love the value there either. Like, I feel like that's a little bit too steep or a little too cheap for him. I think that, again, we're talking about
it's too short. Like, you feel like she'd be like 15-1.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem with these touchdown scores we've seen that the books are annoyed at people getting good. Like, they've shortened the numbers on. I think people are betting these a lot more in 2021, and so they shortened the numbers because it used to be like Zach Pascal's 25-1.
Yeah.
And now he's 10-1. Michael Pittman 6.5-1. Michael Carter 6-1, and Jonathan Taylor 3.5-1. Honestly, the Jonathan Taylor is probably the best bet. It's just 3.5-1 for those odds. It's just not
like
ideal.
that should be like plus 525 or something.
Like Devonte Adams at his peak when he was catching every first touchdown from Aaron Rodgers rarely got down to 3.5-1. I mean, 5-1. You're talking first touchdown. You have to between both teams. That's crazy. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at. Again, if we're looking at like some good, obscure values here, Tyler Kroft 30-1. He caught a touchdown last week. So there's you could say there's chemistry between he and Mike White. You could start to play that narrative a little bit. But again, if you're down that low and you're trying to find some legit value, I think Kroft is someone who might be, attractive there.
I would agree. Yeah, I like Tyler Kroft. That's a good one. I should have probably looked at that harder. You can also, if you're going to bet Tyler Kroft first touchdown at 30-1, go ahead and at Caesars, you can scroll down a little bit further and you can bet him anytime touchdown 9.5-1. And that's
that's the route. That's the route.
Yeah. Jonathan Taylor, by the way, minus 155 anytime touchdown. I don't hate Michael Pittman, plus 118 anytime touchdown either. Mo Alley Cox is a guy I got for first touchdown 15-1. I also like Nyheim Hines at 16-1, and we've just seen Carson Wentz use him in the red zone. And then Carson Wentz 25-1. Again, he's using his legs more. If maybe they get a pass interference, he sneaks. Actually, I take that back. If they get a pass interference, they're probably running Jonathan Taylor. But if we get like a 3rd and goal from the 3 or something like that, it wouldn't be crazy at all to see them bootleg him. They're probably like Jonathan Taylor's. Don't bet a lot on these first touchdown scores in this game. And, Jonathan Taylor is probably going to score the first touchdown.
Yeah.
The value is really, and I know I picked 3 Colts, but I mean, the value is probably more on the Jets just because they're big. When you get a big underdog like that, if they come out and surprise anybody and score in this primetime game, they get the ball first, they go down and maybe they got scripted plays or whatever. You're just getting better numbers on those guys. But this is not a great first touchdown market, but that's fine. Still could be an exciting game. And we will have, of course, DFS talk available to you on the YouTubes. That's it for the podcast version. If you want to check out the DFS chat between me and Sully, go to youtube.com/pick6 or search for Pick 6 Podcast on the YouTube app. See you over at the YouTubes in a second, Sully. All right, DFS time. Man, I got to tell you, it's not easy to get away from Jonathan Taylor in the captain spot. Checking in at, let's see, what is he priced at? 17,400. Carson Wentz 16,200. Michael Pittman 15,300. Mike White 14,700. What a world we live in. Michael Carter 12,900. Jamison Crowder 11,700. These are all captain prices, by the way. Zach Pascal 9,900. And then what's weird about this? Do they not have a? Oh, no, so I'm looking at I wasn't looking at the. Let me make sure I got everybody there. I was looking at an optimizer instead of the actual DFS site, because in the actual DFS setup they will have, I assume, Sam Ehlinger at what would we be at? Yeah. So Corey Davis questionable 11-4. I skipped him. My bad. T.Y. Hilton 10-5. He's out. Oh, Zach Wilson's at 9,000, Josh Johnson 9,000, Joe Flacco 9,000, and Sam Ehlinger 9,000. Brett Hundley as well. So I mean, this is what they do: is that they just price quarterbacks at 9,000 captain, 6,000 regular, these backup quarterbacks. So that's why we always try and look at sort of the guys who are above them as the top captain options, people that will look at the most. Ty Johnson also 9.6 and Elijah Moore 9.3. Like I said, it's easy to target Jonathan Taylor as your captain this one. I mean, if this game follows the theoretical script, 45.5, low total, huge favorite, Jonathan Taylor is going to see a ton of work and likely run the ball a bunch, but you may be going in a different direction.
Yeah, I just think, again, I love Jonathan Taylor in this matchup, but I do think, could it be a little bit chalky? I think that this is one of those games where it's a bad one side really bad, not a lot of stars, and the other side is probably somebody that most people drafted or saw be drafted in the first round of their season-long drafts in Jonathan Taylor. So I think they'll just gravitate towards him. I do like, and he is a little expensive, so it's tough to kind of construct a great roster with him and still have some of these stars. To me, I don't mind Carson Wentz as your captain. It goes away a little bit from that, okay, they're going to get out to a crazy lead and then it's just going to be Jonathan Taylor the rest of the way and start piling up. It's almost, if you love going over on his touchdown props, which, Will, I know that was one of the overs that you have, maybe you kind of lean this way with Carson Wentz, just because if you feel confident that he's going to find the end zone a couple of times, that's where you go. And then to me, you can still kind of construct a pretty good roster. I have Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, and then I'm coming back around with Michael Carter and Keelan Cole as my two Jets to kind of hopefully, get some, hey, we're coming back, we're going crazy. And then the last one, and I think that this one could be a little bit of a sleeper. My final guy in this lineup is Marlon Mack. I'm kind of curious to see how Indianapolis decides to use him in this game, because obviously, Jonathan Taylor is their absolute star. Nyheim Hines is their passing down back. And you saw last week that they really didn't use Marlon Mack that much. And I do wonder if that was by design. And what I mean by that is, did they not play him that much because they knew the trade deadline was coming? Did not want him to get hurt because he was somebody that's always been in kind of these trade rumors. I know that earlier, a few weeks ago, or maybe a month or so ago, Kansas City was reportedly talking about him. He was a name that was being dropped around.
He was inactive a few weeks ago. As well, when there were trade rumors popped up for the first time. And then, yeah, totally. I think if you thought they were going to trade him, you don't play him a ton against the Titans.
Right. And so now that the trade deadline's gone, it's like, all right, well, we have him. Let's use him. And let's kind of get back to where we were maybe a little bit towards the beginning of the year, where he was getting a little bit more touches. So I just kind of want to see what that looks like. And I feel like he's someone who might not be that highly owned. Again, he's cheap. So it's maybe he gets, in a ton of lineups that way just because he can fill out a spot. But to me, I'm interested to see how he does.
I like that. I think, see if this will work. Oh yeah. I'll tell you what. Now here's a lineup. I don't mind that lineup at all. Now Carson Wentz, the one concern I would have is that if you have Taylor and Mack, there is a chance that Carson Wentz is under this game script, under the game script that we're talking about. If this is a Colts get lead, run football, there's a chance that Carson Wentz comes out of this game with minimal production relative to his salary because the Colts just aren't throwing a bunch. And like TBD on, how that actually plays out. I think, and the other thing I would say too, is that there's a really good chance that we see like 35 to 40% of these rosters, these lineups at 4-4-2 construction, as in 4 Colts and 2 Jets. So that's just one thing to think about from a lineup construction standpoint. I do think you can get a little bit different if you go with 5 Colts and 1 Jet. I just don't think that'll be very common. There are some guys that are so friggin' cheap. Marlon Mack. You can go. Our buddy Ashton Doolin is $200. Stone cold men, as I think is the term in the industry term, right? I mean, $200 you can get him in there. You could go Marlon Mack and Ashton Doolin for $1,000 total, and in your spots, and you have plenty of room to work with. I'm actually and I'll be perfectly frank, I only thought of this because you said it, because you mentioned him. What about Marlon Mack in the captain spot?
Okay. I mean, you're talking about ultimate flexibility now in terms of
correct. So let's go to the captain. Yeah, Chris. One day, Chris, you and I will both remember that you have to click the captain section. So we go Marlon Mack, $1,200 the captain. I swear to God, every time I do this on DraftKings, I forget to switch back over. Marlon Mack in the captain spot. So what we're doing here is building a pure bloodbath scenario. Colts onslaught. They get crushed. The Colts crush the Jets. Absolutely demolish them, like 28-6 or something like that. In this case, clearly we're going to want to have Jonathan Taylor in there as well, Carson Wentz, and Michael Pittman. We're going to bypass Mike White in favor of our only Jet in this lineup, Michael Carter, who could catch a ton of passes and will be used. Like, if they're gonna dink and dunk to him a ton, I think. You could go with Jamison Crowder in that spot instead, but I like going with Carter. And then that actually leaves us enough room to slide on down. We're gonna leave a ton of money on the table. We're gonna slide on down and get the Colts defense, because in this theoretical scenario where the Colts blow them out, their turnovers, and that's why I'm avoiding Mike White as well. Like, there's a chance that the Colts, like I said, squat in that area, dare him to throw downfield. He either tries to, and look, if Mike White lights us up on deep balls, and we take the L. But there are ample opportunities for interceptions, sacks. I think we could see a ton of that from the Indianapolis defense. I don't hate them as a captain either. But the idea with Mack as the captain is, one, it'll be fairly unique, and two, the Colts get a big lead via defense, some Jonathan Taylor, which we've got, some Carson Wentz to Michael Pittman, and then they're like, hey, Marlon Mack, you're getting 15 carries in this game, and see what you can do. And Mack rips off, or maybe Mack gets some red zone carries, et cetera, et cetera. You credit to you for the Mack idea. I just spun him into a captain spot.
Yeah, no, I don't hate it in terms of, again, you're talking about ultimate flexibility. If you don't even want, if you want to just go complete onslaught, you could fit Zach Pascal, you could go Mo Alley Cox, you could go, wherever really you want to do outside of, if you want to keep it with just Colts. I mean, you can't really do Mike White, but like outside of that, you can pretty much cater to that however you want, if you want to keep all those guys in there and just kind of play around with either the Colts defense or not. No, I don't hate it. It's just, I just find Marlon Mack interesting, because I know we often talk about like, oh, some of these teams want to showcase talent. Like, I know Evan Ingram was a name that, a lot of teams talked about, where it was like, oh, this could be a showcase for him going up against the Kansas City Chiefs right before the deadline. But some teams also are like, hold on, we don't want this guy getting hurt. We don't want to, ruin an asset, because, all of a sudden we're planning on trading him. He gets hurt. Nobody wants him. So correct. I think that was the case with Marlon Mack here. And I'm just going to be very interested to see how they start to use him now that the deadline is passed, and he's obviously going to be on the team for the rest of the year.
Well, look at his game logs. He missed week 1, and they held him out of week 3, I think, which was the trade rumor week, the original trade rumor week. But he's had 5, 10, 5, 5, and 3 carries. Look, there's not, he's not setting the world. I'm not saying he's a feature back, but they've got him for the rest of the year. They're not going to want to load up Jonathan Taylor with 30 carries unnecessarily in this game. And then I think one alternate lineup that you could look at for this, we can clear that one out. And actually, you know what? You don't even need to. Yeah, might as well. Yeah, clear it out. It'll be easier. Well, whatever. Let's put go to captain and put the Colts defense in there. I would think that this will be maybe a little more popular just because of the low total and the Jets being bad. But Mike White's performance last week probably scares some folks off, right?
For sure.
He can put up 400 yards against the Bengals, who have a good defense. I think we shouldn't see too much ownership on the Colts, and then we can grab Jonathan Taylor, Carson Wentz, and Michael Pittman. Now look. You can have you can look at a game and think, all right, there is no way that Jonathan Taylor won't perform at a high level in this game. But you know what? We just saw Patrick Mahomes stink against the Giants. So nothing is ever guaranteed, even if it feels that way. We're going to do the same thing we've done the last one, which we're going to have Michael Carter as our lone Jet. Sorry, yeah, right there. Oh no, that only leaves us 1,300, which I guess
you could still get Mack.
You could still get Mack, or you could even go down and grab Ashton Dulin at $200 if you wanted to be a little more unique and leave some salary on the table there. So you leave $1,100 but you could grab Mack in that spot. I would have no problem with it, of course.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those things where, I think we talked about it a little bit a few weeks ago too with Green Bay, when we were talking a lot about A.J. Dillon in terms of his, he was so cheap that week going up against last Thursday. It was last Thursday against Arizona. He was so cheap.
Only last Thursday.
I know, isn't that crazy?
It is.
And you can fit him in a ton of rosters just because he's so cheap. So you do have to run the risk of a couple of people saying, all right, well, might be highly owned because he's so cheap. He can kind of fit into these rosters. But still, again, it's an interesting opportunity there, even though I do love let's try the mad science experiment with Ashton.
Absolutely. Well, and look, when you get games like this, you're going to, sometimes you can, bad chalk can pay off. I guess not bad chalk, but like cheap chalk can still pay off. I don't think John Ross is very chalky, but like to your point, A.J. Dillon, I mean, they did exactly what we said they might do, which is split out Aaron Jones more and pound the ball with AJ Dillon a lot. And you needed to have AJ Dillon in a roster to win anything that, last Thursday. So I like, if I'm going to do this lineup, I'm also going to do a variation of this lineup with Marlon Mack instead of Ashton Doolin in the $15 entry. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go put this one in before I forget and I get too cute. Because I can promise you that I will get too cute. Like later on Thursday, I'll be like, today's Thursday if you're listening to the podcast. But I guess if you're watching on YouTube, it could be Wednesday. I will be like, oh no, I got to go all Jonathan Taylor captain. Can't have any Colts defense. Do you think there's a path where Carson Wentz is not in the optimal
lineup? Sure. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about, what was it? A few weeks ago, I think it was against Baltimore, right? Where he threw a 75-yard screen to Jonathan Taylor. And then it's pretty, if that happens against the New York Jets on the opening drive, that's about all you're going to see from Carson Wentz for the rest of the game. He's going to have that one touchdown throw, and then it's going to be all defense, all running game. So sure, I mean, yeah, absolutely. And if we're talking about Mike White potentially coming back down to earth a little bit, you're not going to be asking, Carson Wentz to throw all over the field like he had to do last week against Tennessee, where they're trying to keep pace with obviously what Ryan Tannehill and those guys were doing. So no, there's obviously a scenario there. And again, that could be unique as well, because that's going to be a popular captain pick. That's going to be a popular guy that's in lineup. So yeah, no, that could be another way to get a unique lineup in this game.
Yeah. Look, Carson Wentz has, I guess, easily the highest ceiling of any player in this game. Maybe Jonathan Taylor could potentially match him, but the nature of a quarterback who could use his legs around the goal line, and the fact that if the Colts score 3 or 4 touchdowns and all of them are passing touchdowns just because they're short or for whatever reason, Wentz has the highest ceiling of anybody. That's just how the captain spot works. Taylor, I think, is close. But yeah, at the same time, Carson Wentz has a pretty low floor.
Yeah.
If this is just a pure Jonathan Taylor, Marlon Mack defense game. So you would leave a ton of money on the table if you went that direction. Do we dare build a Costanza lineup here?
I think we have to, right?
We have to. I think so, yeah.
It's kind of our thing now. This would have to be
was it last Thursday that I was like freaking out because I didn't build it, or was it maybe Monday? There was one of them where I was like, oh my God, this is actually work. Actually, this was Monday.
It might have been Monday. I was going to just say, yeah.
Because I had one Giants heavy lineup, but I don't know if I had one that was like 4 Giants, 2, or maybe I had one. I just didn't have the right pieces though. I had like Sterling Shepard, he got hurt. That was the play. 4 Giants, 2 Chiefs.
Yeah, I had one. See, I had one and I chose wrong. Yeah. I had a 4 Giant, 2 Chiefs, but I chose Kelsey as my main chief, and I should have went Hill, and that is what screwed me in the end.
Let me see the 10. That's Sunday night. Oh man, I had Sunday night's thing. I was 43rd in the Millie Maker with freaking in that Cowboys game. It was like all I needed was Dak. I needed Dak to throw to or not Dak, excuse me. I needed Cooper Rush to throw to. I had Cooper Rush captain. I needed to be not Amari Cooper. If Zeke Elliott gets in the end zone on that play where he got the first down, I would have been top 10, I think. But what are you gonna do? I had a I had a 3-3 with Tyreek, Mahomes, Danny Dimes, and Sterling Shepard, and I had John Ross in there. I needed to have another Giant. So it's worth noting that was a 10.5 point game. The Chiefs are largely considered, I know we're down on them right now, but largely considered better than the Colts. And the Giants are probably better than the Jets, but whatever, 6 half dozen. So the point being is that while we're saying there's no way the Jets come out and win this game or are more fantasy relevant, it's not out of the question.
No, absolutely not. And again, even if they keep this thing close, you're still talking about, again, it's not like, the Giants didn't win that game, but a majority of those guys were in the optimal lineup. So, it's not like they have to win the game for it to translate for you to win these lineups too. It's as long as they keep it close when it's like this big of a spread, because these guys are not going to be as popular as somebody on Indianapolis. Yeah, obviously it'll move you up the board here. Who do you think, if we're doing a Costanza Jets one, we obviously have to have a Jet captain? Where are you looking?
Yeah, you got to go Jets captain. I think Michael Carter's the play. Yeah. Michael Carter or Jamison Crowder. You talked about it with the air yards and the stats we got from our great research team. they're going to be working in those short yardage areas. And Carter, I mean, look, Carter has so there's multiple outs with Carter. One, the Jets are trailing and Mike White's dumping it off to him a ton. Two, the Jets have a lead. I mean, like, and they're running the football with Michael Carter, right? So, if the Jets somehow get a lead, it's not going to be Jamison Crowder that's getting a ton of touches. So I think it's got to be Carter or Mike White, unless you think the Jets defense is going to magically find a way to score multiple times.
No, I don't see that. I think Carter is the play here. Again, ton of targets last week. It seems to be the type of kind of offense that they want to run, that short intermediate routes. I'll say it again here for people who are just watching this on YouTube. Mike White last week, 42% of his passes were 0 to 5 air yards with an 81 completion percentage. The Colts are allowing the 5th highest completion percentage in the NFL with air yards between 0 and 5 yards at 73%. So again, it's something that he at least did well in one game, and something that Indianapolis has struggled against, or at least has been susceptible to for the bulk of the year.
I mean, look at these targets and catches in this game against the Bengals. 14 targets, 9 catches for Michael Carter, a running back. 6 targets, 5 catches for Ty Johnson, a backup running back or a secondary running back. 6 targets, 6 catches for Elijah Moore, the rookie wide receiver. 9 targets, 8 catches for Jamison Crowder. And, none of these guys have, they're averaging like 10 yards a catch. But, I mean, this is like a design dink and dunk offense is what it was. So, if we go Carter there, we probably have to have Mike White as well. I think we're looking at a 4 Jets, 2 Colts lineup for this Costanza one probably. So Mike White, do you want to add? All right, well, let's pick our 2 Colts then. Is it
okay?
Is it JT and Wentz, JT or Wentz and Pittman?
I was going to go Wentz Pittman because again, if we're talking about them trailing,
they sell out and they stop. They sell out and they stop. Jonathan Taylor. Is that what the idea being in that?
And again, we're talking about Bizarro land where everybody's assuming, Taylor's probably gonna be the highest owned captain in this. So, probably one of the highest owned players in general on this game. So again, we're going weird. He's probably not in this lineup.
So JT's first 3 games of the season, he's gonna be like 80% owned. He had 42 carries for 171 yards, 4.1 yards per carry. That's 14 carries. 57 yards per game, no touchdowns whatsoever. He has been substantially better the last 5 weeks. 79 carries for 478 yards at 6.1 yards per carry, and he has 6 touchdowns in those 5 games. Also 13 catches, 195 yards, and a touchdown. And he's been a monster. He is going to be by far, he might be 30% captain, honestly. Maybe he'll be 20 plus easily. I mean, I think it is a dangerous game here that we're playing to fade Jonathan Taylor, but it's also, we're playing a lot of Jets. So, and I mean, I guess the other thing too, to think about when you're building this roster construction is are we playing this as the Jets are winning, or are we playing this as the Jets are coming back? Because that, if you think the Jets are coming back, then Taylor probably needs to be in the lineup as well.
Well, it depends. Yeah, again, we could go very similar to Monday night where it's Giants don't win, but they're close.
Yeah.
So
I think that's what we do with Pittman and Wentz here. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so we need to add 2 more Jets to it. I mean, now the one thing about that is it prices you out of Jamison Crowder. Interesting. We can get Elijah Moore in there. No, we can't because we don't have
it doesn't really give you that much wiggle room. I wonder.
And Wentz is cheaper than Taylor. What if we did? Would it be insane to do 5-1 Jets and the only one is Jonathan Taylor?
No, I mean,
let's try that. Let's take out Pittman and Wentz, just because I think in this scenario it's probably a lower scoring game. And let's go with JT, and then we can add Jamison Crowder. Yep. And so we got 4,000 left, or roughly 4,000 left. So we could go either Ty Johnson or Elijah Moore. How about Elijah?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd feel better with Elijah.
Yeah, let's go Elijah, because we're thinking just dink and dunk. We're thinking this is the type of lineup where it's like JT is pounding the foot. Like they are pounding it with JT the whole game. And we're also dinking and dunking. So we have 1,700 left. Let's see what that gets us. If we scroll down there, Chris, and see what we grab from the Jet, get all the way down to 17, around the 2,000. Ew,
stinky. It is not
Ryan Griffin.
It's not great.
I guess we could go Marlon Mack here. And it's the Colts dominate on the ground, but Mike and like the Jets don't even bother to run the ball. It's just dink and dunk and dink and dunk.
That is a very unique lineup.
Yeah, oh yeah. If that one hits, we're winning $1 million. I mean,
that is $1 million lineup or a -$15 lineup.
I mean, obviously we have to play. I'm not going to screw. We got to play this. This is my problem with these showdown slates and why it's such a mind bleep is that we sit here and we do these shows and we were talking for 50, 45 minutes or whatever it is. And I'm like, this is just crazy enough to work. Yep. And then it's like Thursday at 7:55 and I'm slamming lineups and I'm like, I can't do that. It's like I need to be better about my roster, my ahead of time roster construction when it comes to DFS. I do too much. I mean, this is obviously I do too much at the last minute, like surprise, surprise. But like I get scared of stuff like this when I'm actually in the moment. You know what I'm saying?
See, I get horrified almost for a different reason where I'm like, man, this is one of those crazy ones that could just work. And then I get to it and I'm like you're saying, I can't really do it. But then I get horrified because I'm like, this is going to be that one time where the Costanza lineup gets to the top and
right.
So you miss out on the island.
I mean, but I feel like we've seen a lot of these in primetime spots where, and look, the Colts could still win this game, 28-21. But it's but it's all, they get a lead early on Jonathan Taylor, jailbreaks one, and they just pound Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack the whole game. And the Jets there's a very clear roster construction here that we're shooting for when we target this particular lineup. Yeah. I also think there's a pathway where we could put, I'm trying to think if there's a pathway where you can get the same thing with Jonathan Taylor as the captain. It's like 5 Jets and Jonathan Taylor. That's something to potentially think about.
Yeah.
As well. Is Ryan Griffin, I know we went Mac. I hadn't even looked at Ryan Griffin's. Did he get any run in that game against the
No.
He's had 5 total targets the last 3 weeks. Can't play him.
No.
Okay. All right. That's the Costanza lineup. I've got it submitted. You now split $1 million. Or 500. We'll split 500,000, of course. But that's
I'll take it. I'm not going to say no.
Yeah, I'm not going to show up for Monday's show either. All right, that's it for the DFS portion of the program. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hit that like button. Tell us your best plays in the comments. Sully, it's always a pleasure, buddy.